y bienvenidos una vez más a su canal, el canal del Dr. José Carlos. Bien, el día de hoy hablaremos de conspiraciones, falsos profetas, aquellos que hablan en blanco y negro, y tendremos un invitado especial, el Dr. Stanley Perlman, un verdadero experto en coronavirus. Bien, empecemos. Las conspiraciones, los falsos profetas y aquellas personas que hablan en blanco y negro siempre tienen tres características. La primera, hablan como si estuvieran absolutamente seguros de que lo que están diciendo es irrefutable y que nadie puede cuestionarlos. Dos, siempre hablan en extremos. No hay la posibilidad de que algo no sea exactamente eso que están diciendo. No saben decir no sé. Juran que su palabra viene como mandato divino o porque son extremadamente inteligentes y no tienen absolutamente nada para respaldar de lo que están hablando. Y tres, cuando se los cuestiona, se desesperan, se enojan y comienzan a decir, ejemplo ridículo, doctor, ¿qué es A? Y ellos te dicen, pues A es B, C, X, Y y la ecuación de Einstein. O sea, A debería haber sido la respuesta simplemente B, pero como no la saben, no la dominan, no la entienden, comienzan a mezclar todo. Claro ejemplo, cuando agarran y dicen que el coronavirus es un problema de las antenas 5G, de que te quieren controlar la vida, de que te quieren lavar el cerebro. O sea, mezclan todo y hacen una ensalada y te lo lanzan. Un verdadero experto, como el doctor que voy a entrevistar, no tiene miedo a decir no sé. De lo que sí sabe, habla con total contundencia. Tiene años y tiene descripciones, documentos, ensayos clínicos, investigaciones que respaldan lo que él dice. Es por eso que en este canal, siempre en las descripciones vas a ver la fuente bibliográfica de dónde estamos hablando. ¿Por qué? Porque la idea es que estés bien informado. Y yo no tengo miedo de decir algo y luego ser refutado como un mentiroso. Me puedo equivocar, pero por lo menos siempre tendrás la confianza de que lo que te digo está refutado por literatura. Ahora, el doctor Stanley Perlman es profesor y doctor de microbiología, inmunología y pediatría. Este hombre tiene más de 100 artículos científicos como autor y coautor. Ha estudiado 35 años el coronavirus. Este hombre sí sabe lo que es el coronavirus y toda su familia. Empecemos.
So now, for everybody, and I will be speaking English because my guest of honor is Dr. Perlman. He is a pediatric professor of microbiology, immunology, and has more research of COVID-19 and coronavirus in general that you can have in a lifetime. Thank you very much for your time, Professor. From behalf of everybody in Bolivia, thank you. We were talking before, and I was telling him about what's going on in Bolivia. And for those who will be seeing this interview, let me tell you that this doctor actually is an expert in coronavirus. He has been studying it over 15 years, I think, Professor?
Oh, over 35 years.
Sorry, over 35 years of studying coronavirus and the 4 types that there are in the nature. So the first question that everybody wants to know, how long will coronavirus outbreak will last?
I think that everybody wants to know the answer to that question, but nobody knows. if we do the best measures that we can, I think it's still going to, the outbreak will last for several months to 2 years. And I hope by then there'll be enough immunity so people will recognize it as more like a cold than anything else. And it won't be such a severe pneumonia.
So you think that immunity will be something that will help lever the curves of incidence?
That's what we think. And we know that even in places like China, which had the first outbreak of cases, the vast majority of people in China are not immune to the virus. So that's why we worry that outbreaks could occur again in the fall and next spring.
Okay, and talking about China, will you think, because everybody, especially the anti-vaccine groups and conspirant, think that the virus is human-made or natural-made?
It's almost impossible for it to be human-made. I don't know how any scientist could change the virus to make this kind of virus innate occur, because we don't know enough about all the details of how these viruses work to be able to be smart enough to manipulate them like this. And some of the structure of the virus, which people say must show that it was man-made, are actually same kinds of structure that are found in other coronaviruses of animals and of humans. So there's no reason to think that it is human-made. It looks just like a bat virus, so I am sure it is a bat virus.
Like the outbreak of 2003, right?
Yeah, the outbreak of 2003 was definitely a bat virus that went to these exotic animals like Himalayan palm civet cats and Chinese ferret badgers, and then to people. Yes, exactly. The difference there is in SARS, we knew what the intermediate animals were. In this case, we don't really know what the intermediate animals are yet.
Okay. So, what is about coronavirus SARS-CoV-19 so different that set it apart from another coronavirus or another virus?
Well, what's unique about it is it actually is a combination of previous coronaviruses in the sense that coronaviruses cause the common cold, and so these viruses have the same kind of infection of the upper airway and the nose that the common cold viruses do. But in addition, this virus goes into the lungs and causes a severe pneumonia, just like the other coronaviruses, the severe acute respiratory coronavirus, the SARS coronavirus, or the Middle East respiratory coronavirus, the MERS coronavirus did. But those viruses didn't really infect the upper airway to such a great extent. So they caused a serious disease, but they weren't so easily transmittable. This one, by combining features of both the cold coronaviruses and these more severe ones, has given us a virus that's both lethal and transmissible.
Okay, but then at the beginning of the infection, when the Chinese researchers and doctors start to send to New England Journal or PubMed, they said that the capacity of infection of this virus was more aggressive than influenza, for example. I read in an article that it has a capacity of infect somebody 1 to 3, like a person that is infected could potentially infect 3 persons in the same room, whereas influenza is 1 to 1. So why do you think is that?
Yeah, so I don't know why that is, because this virus behaves like a cold virus, but it seems like it spreads even better than some of the cold viruses. But as I was saying, on the other hand, a lot of people get infected don't even develop symptoms of disease. So it's still not everything is not known. A lot is not known about this virus.
Correct. I tried to read all your papers. You have so much, and it takes days to read them all. But something that I like about is that you were experimenting in mice, and that you were trying to see how it was the pathway from an infectious in upper airway that gets to the nervous system. There you have a lot of papers talking about that. My question is, from the inflammatory pathway that virus provokes in the humans, what makes some patients form, for example, coagulopathies, gastrointestinal problems, neurological, or hypercytokine syndrome?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we don't know how much of that is genetic, how much is because people have underlying problems. It seems that the people who really have a problem with this virus are either old or have a comorbidity like obesity or hypertension or heart disease or renal disease. So those people seem to do worse, and they seem to have more of the higher amounts of virus, and they seem to have that hypercytokine disease that you mentioned. So all those things are true, but other than that, we can't predict who's going to get really sick and who's not. We know children get less sick, but we don't know who we can predict who will get the most sick. We know these factors matter, these underlying other problems.
So will you say that the same thing can be applied for pediatrics, for example, in the what happened with Kawasaki disease or that new multisystemic inflammatory in children, right?
Yes.
Is that the same idea?
Well, that's a disease that we don't know much about. One thing that you have to think about with this disease is that with the huge number of cases of this disease in the world, of the COVID-19, we see manifestations that are very rare. So if you have 4 million cases, you're going to see things even if they occur very, very rarely. With SARS, it was only 8,000 cases total, so we didn't see anything like this. So I don't know if this is unique to COVID-19. It may be, I just don't know. But when you have 4 million cases, you have the chance to see things that occur very, very rarely.
Okay. So before the interview, we were talking about the use of many drugs that could potentially help people. There was one in my country, in Bolivia, that is in the hype of commercial sales, and people is talking about a lot. What are your thoughts about ivermectin?
Well, I think that people have mentioned that, and I don't know that there's any evidence it really works. What people need to do when they come up with almost any therapy like this is they really need to sit back and say, okay, if this therapy is good, then we should be able to give it to some number of people and at the same time give other people nothing, or placebo as it's called. And if ivermectin is going to work, the people who get the ivermectin should do better than the people who get placebo. In the absence of that, the whole spectrum of COVID-19 therapy is really a mess, because people give a drug and they don't have a control, and you never know with a disease like this, which is pretty variable, if people would get better anyway. So you don't know if it's the drug, the ivermectin, or if it's something else. And until you do what's called the placebo-controlled study, you can't make a decision. So I don't know that ivermectin is expected to work, but the only way to find out if it does work is to do a placebo-controlled study.
Thank you. So from all the drugs, besides obviously the vaccine, which one do you think is doing the best?
Yeah, this is a good question, because the one that's probably has the best outlook right now is remdesivir. And this is one that's intravenous, and it was expensive. It may be less expensive now, but it has to be given. I think for it to work, it probably has to be given very early in the infection, when people probably don't want to get intravenous medication. And even then, I don't know if it'll work. The studies that were just published in the last couple of weeks showed that it had some effects, but they weren't huge. They just had some effects. And so it's maybe our best choice, but it's not great yet.
I gotta say, I was thinking exactly the same thing. Thank you. I was reading that there are some vaccines that are actually in stage 2 and 3 right now. What do you see will be the change that will happen in stage 4 and 5? and how long will it take to make the vaccine commercial for everybody?
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Challenge. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what stages 2, 3, 4, and 5 are. I'm used to animal studies and clinical stages 1, 2, 3.
Sorry. So let me rephrase again. The vaccines are right now in stage animal and healthy people.
Right. Phase 1. Yes.
So is the next stage is people with the disease, and then the commercial, right?
Then stage 2, where you do bigger numbers, and then in theory, stage 2 and stage 3 to make sure we know about its safety and about its how well it works, its efficacy. But then clinical. That's what you normally do. But here we're going much faster because people are so worried about the disease, and whether it's the right thing to do or not, we will find out. At the same time, we're giving this vaccine to people. We're trying to do studies in mice to make sure the vaccine works well and is safe. So this is all being done very quickly, and we hope there won't be problems with it. But the people are doing it quickly because they worry about if they don't do something like this, that there will be problems in the future. There'll be too many people who are susceptible. And if there's a second wave or a third wave, a lot of people will become sick again. So it's a balance. And a lot of the vaccines are new, but the way they're delivered, the platforms are not new. So some of those we have some experience with, especially in experimental animals and some in humans. So we think they should work and be safe. But a lot of this is unknown.
All right. I heard that in the CDC or TA, right now I don't remember the government, specific government was saying that by the end of the year, maybe?
Yes. So I know countries are saying that people are revving up the amounts of vaccine that they're making. So it's possible there'll be lots of vaccines, and hopefully they will work well enough to be safe and give people protection for at least a year. Some of the ones that I know that are nearest to being finished are ones that I know in other cases work okay for a year, but then the amount of the immune response tends to go down. So we have to see what happens here. It's a problem if you get a vaccine and then 2 years later you don't have much of an immune response left. Maybe a problem. So, but those are the kinds of things we can't know. This virus has only been around since December, 5 months ago.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
I have one last question.
Okay.
What's your experience, or what do you think about the people that gets infected, then starts having negative results, create an immunity, but then gets reinfected?
Yeah. So this is really a good question because it can represent one of two phenomena. One is that you are reinfected, which of course would be a worry because it's only within a few months, and you would hope you'd have enough immune reaction from the first infection to be protected against the second one. The other possibility is that you always had a very, very low level of virus there, and in fact you don't really get reinfected. You just have a positive PCR test, the test for the virus, but you're not really reinfected. It just was hanging around. Now, the issue that's really hard is when somebody is sick and then his or her evidence of virus infection go away, and then a few months later it comes back again. Because then you would think that this represents either you would think it might represent reinfection, but it could also represent a lingering virus. And then if the virus is really lingering around, if there's really enough virus to cause disease again, then it makes you think that the virus really is persistent, that it's not going away the way we would have expected it to. So both of those scenarios are ones we need to learn more about, particularly if the longer the interval between the first and second positive test. If it's only a few weeks, it's probably just virus, and it may not even be infectious virus. It may be just bits of the virus that's hanging around and are now being detected, and that it won't mean very much. But if somebody gets really sick a second time, we need to know about that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. You are like a Michael Jordan of COVID and coronavirus. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, good luck with that, and let me know if there's anything else I can do to help.
I definitely will. I hope maybe in the future we can have another interview once there are more things explained. And well, your name practically is in every single paper of coronavirus that I've read. So thank you. Thank you once more for everything. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Have a good day. And
Okay, bye-bye.
Mi primera entrevista, me puse nervioso, increíble. Un hombre de ese nivel que pueda ser capaz de compartir un tiempo conmigo para poder explicarnos lo que significa el coronavirus. Básicamente esa persona ya estudiaba coronavirus cuando yo recién nacía. Pero se dieron cuenta cómo tiene esa soltura, esa tranquilidad para agarrar y hablar del coronavirus como alguien que realmente se siente que sabe de lo que habla. Y lo más interesante, que no tiene ningún problema con decir que no sé. Toda persona que estudia algo, lo que sea, siempre sabe que a medida que va avanzando, surgen más preguntas. Y eso es un experto, alguien que le ha dedicado la vida entera a estudiar un tema, que es profesor del tema, que investiga, no que habla tonteras. Muchas gracias por habernos acompañado. Ha sido un video largo, pero muy educativo. Gracias. Si te gustó lo que viste, dame un like, compártelo en tus redes sociales y comenta. Siempre te contestaré. Gracias y nos vemos en el próximo video.